We'll talk about victory laps. Matt and I are getting ready for NFL season. I'm very excited. I think my Cowboys are going to have a pretty good year. I'm also very damn excited for the University of Texas, but we'll talk about that another time. Right now, we're talking about the pros, the big boys. And, Matt and I also have joined a little fantasy football league. I think we're both pretty confident and happy with our selections so far. We'll see. But this is a good time, for people who make money off of fantasy football because everybody right now is looking up draft guides. And a self-proclaimed young man, but judging by his picture, I don't know how fair that is. Right wing fella, figure that he get in on the fun. And Matt and I just wanted to look at these because this guy has put together a non-woke list of fantasy football suggestions. And let me just say one thing up top. There is nothing more whiny and loserish than like really importing your politics into sports. Like, don't get me wrong. There's points where it's unavoidable. When the kneeling stuff was happening, like you had to have an opinion on that. And I don't think that we should be saying things to football players like don't talk about life or don't talk about politics or religion or anything like that. I'm talking about as a fan projecting a lot of stuff onto people because it makes you feel good to, support somebody who might be a lefty or a conservative. I'll also say, as somebody who, plays fantasy football in particular, that is something that is so abstracted from reality in any sense, right? It makes you weird when you're watching football games because you're cheering for things that nobody else cares about. And I also have that opinion when I'm drafting my team. I'm not sitting here and thinking about like, well, does this fella agree with me on this or that when I'm picking them? And I sometimes get a little annoyed with some of my friends when they start saying, "Well, why couldn't I'm not going to draft this guy because he said this about COVID or something like that." It's like
Aaron Rodgers we're talking
yeah,
about, basically.
give me, I don't know. It's just boring.
There's other reasons to go low on Aaron Rodgers besides his
I think so. You could just go real low on Aaron Rodgers as like a dude, but if he's going to help you win $100 from your friends, I don't know.
Right.
Go for it. Though I don't think Aaron Rodgers would be a particularly good fantasy football pick, and we'll talk about that in just a second because this fellow Nick Adams, self-proclaimed young fella. I'm not
Australian. I should just cut in here. He's an Australian who wrote a book called The Green Card Warrior or some shit like that.
Which was endorsed by Trump.
It was. I also have to say Nick
Amazing
Adams
terminology too.
Oh my god, Nick Adams. Though his original last name was Adamopoulos.
Oh,
and he changed it to Nick Adams. So I mean, I just point that out. I think you could just be proud of your Greek heritage, but you could change names,
yeah, why not? Well, anyways, this fellow put out. We won't spend too long on this, but this guy put out a non-woke the list. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second because I need to get his initial pitch for it. Because I mean, I'm sorry. This is just like the biggest nerd shit in the world. Major announcement. The first ever pro-America fantasy football guide is finally here. Woke ESPN will never tell the truth like me. I know ball better and everyone agrees. So just remember how he's framing it. And then let's check this.
Woke ESPN. Is that, are they still doing that? Like,
it's truly embarrassing. But here's this fantasy football guide. And Matt and I, for the non-football watchers out there, Matt and I will help you out understand why this list is so bad. Nick Adams official 2022 football fantasy football draft guide. Fantasy football season is right here around the corner. Follow this draft guide to ensure your team is loaded with faith, patriotism, and grit. And I'll just be honest, there is no points for any of those things in fantasy football.
No. Also, every football player is basically.
Yeah, that's well. Actually, I just want to say this really quick too.
Foster.
Also when it comes to like football players and like their faith, of course they are fucking believers, man. Imagine like you grow up in America, right? You go and you get put into this like athletic system here, and you want to win. You want to be the best. Like no one plays any sport and doesn't have some dream about becoming a pro. But it's sooner or later we hit a wall, and we retire usually without too much fanfare, and that's that, right? But if you are a professional athlete, a professional football player, at all of those moments where like Matt and I, we might have lost the big game or something like that, they've won,
Yeah,
right? And they probably asked God to help them out. So of course they believe
right.
in all this kind of stuff that God has, given them their talent kind of thing. It's like it's the least surprising thing in the world to me why there are so many athletes who are very big time Jesus freaks. But let's look at this for a second, Matt. Um, Here's the quarterback section. Ready? Who should you pick number one for quarterback? One of the biggest, and I don't even want to come too hard at Kirk Cousins because he didn't put himself in this position, but Kirk Cousins is not anybody's idea of like the best quarterback in the NFL, and certainly not anyone's idea of who you should be drafting first for your team when it comes to quarterbacks. This is a guy who has perennially been moved around. Some of the stories a little sad. Sometimes he didn't have people to give enough faith in him. Maybe if you're trying to be general, but this is a guy.
Yeah.
Fair. This is a guy who has blown huge moments in his football career, and it's also nobody in their right mind is saying that this guy's elite quarterback. Number one, and let's see because why he's making this argument. I'm gonna I reckon probably has very little to do with football. Pro Trump and pro touchdown, Kirk Cousins will be the beneficiary of a revamped offensive scheme that will put the ball in the air more often than in recent seasons. Expect big things from the Cousins Thielen combination. And Matt,
Okay, stop right there.
yeah,
Sorry, cousin Thielen combination. Look, Adam Thielen's probably have a decent year. It's racist to say the cousins Thielen. It's racist against Justin Jefferson, who I picked number one overall on my fantasy team. And
that's
look, Kirk
true.
Cousins as a fantasy, like, look, he's a guy I don't. I'm a Vikings fan to the extent I have a team. I don't like Kirk Cousins. We gave him a whole bunch of money to basically be an average quarterback. And to be fair, he's probably good enough if you have pieces around him to like, put the ball in the air. For fantasy, he's like a decent mediocre pick, right? If you do,
Ooh,
but
Cousins.
Cousins, yeah, like mid to
Like
late.
late if
Like,
you need somebody to fill the roster, not number one, and certainly not because he's
you are
pro
not
touchdown.
no. You would
As
take about 20 quarterbacks before him. Yeah.
as the excellent coach who we salute and follow, um, 3-year Letterman said Nick Adams just gave you the keys to your fantasy football league's championship with pro touchdown Kirk Cousins leading the way, which
Yeah.
is just a joke that you don't even have to make because it is just such horrible advice. Carson Wentz, again, somebody who has been around the league for a very long time. He's not a horrible player, but by no stretch of the imagination a very strong contender. And
No, he
why
doesn't.
why for him
But
is
he
he up here? Because he will have the benefit of a Christ-centered offense.
Christ centered off season.
Oh, sorry, off season. Excuse me. Well, that might make a little bit more
I
sense.
think the second clause, an elite weapon in Terry McLaurin, that's probably a little bit better than the Christ-centered offense off season.
And then it gets okay. I mean, Rodgers, amazing quarterback as a fantasy player. Top to mid. But again, three, Tom Brady. Again, Tom Brady, a great quarterback, but not also somebody who is like a fantasy killer. Um, Josh Allen, like now you're speaking. Josh Allen is like
Yeah.
one of the
Okay.
best like quarterbacks, but he's five. He's five, and he's also very sad that he's losing
Cole
um,
Beasley.
our boy Cole Beasley, the COVID denier, who actually did help out my fantasy season a lot last year. I will be honest. I don't know, just goofy. And then of course, like all these guys said that they love God, so they're all on this.
No Dak.
Sleep. What? No
No.
Dak. Actually, that's a good point. Not to be too glib with the, accusations here about what races are sort of privileged, but Dak is a devout Christian, talks about it a lot. And Dak is as Matt knows, a great pick for your fantasy football team and also a
Yep.
great man, a good quarterback. Um, Sleepers, but this is where it gets really stupid.
Lovely.
Tim Tebow, right?
Yeah, that's a
Just like
sleeper.
Tim
Right?
Tebow is never going to happen, y'all. He was like good in college because college is a very different game. Horrible at the next level. I will say I'm very I do like Taysom Hill a lot. Sleepers Patrick Mahomes. I mean,
Wait,
again, I think for some of our audience, they're getting this. Some of them they might not, but like Patrick,
yeah.
is excellent.
Yeah. The
But
number one quarterback, probably, right? Like, I guess maybe the
it's
what
Allen's number one,
Allen.
Mahomes
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, who's going to have a pretty good year, I reckon. Kyler Murray, who I don't like very much personally, but is not a bad fantasy pick at all or football player.
Oh wait,
Ryan
these are the players
Tannehill.
to avoid.
These are players to avoid. That's what I'm saying.
Right, right. Why? Do you know why?
This is like very bad advice. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow literally. I lost my fantasy football league last year because my opponent had Joe Burrow on his squad. I mean, like the point here is that like I hope that every right winger playing fantasy football is taking Adam's advice because
Yeah.
it's going to be good for the libs as we go into this season.
I,
I
I
mean,
mean, I want to go through this whole thing, but I mean, it's tough. Is it like woke reasons that
yeah,
like Ryan
Burrow,
Tannehill?
Joe, yeah,
Oh,
Tannehill, he'll talk about Tannehill later. I have that flag for us. Joe Burrow tragically went woke. Now watch him struggle in 22, 23. A wise man once said, everyone woke turns to shit. Like the
wait.
biggest,
What do you mean he went woke though? Like, what do you mean?
he like said some very, very like humanistic things about police violence and racism that he had seen play as a football player his entire life. Like a good dude, honestly. Um,
Yeah, it says a lot that you can't be specific about what he did. Like, I mean, if it were like they would say like Kaepernick had socks on that said pigs or something like that,
yeah.
right? Like, but go ahead. Well, yeah,
Running
okay. So,
backs.
oh, his
Um,
name's Christian McCaffrey. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. That's an easy one. Christian McCaffrey is a very good pick. I won't knock him for this. But listen to this one. McCaffrey has held the Panthers together since he arrived in Carolina and will have his work cut out for him with the addition of Baker Mayfield. Hopefully, Christian can mentor the troubled quarterback and give Baker the support and structure he's lacked for his
Oh
entire
my
life.
god.
Now, look, Baker is an Austin boy, but he did go and betray us by going to Oklahoma, so there's not too much love lost here. But I mean, again, just like this isn't football opinion. This is like the most watered down, stupid bullshit. I mean, I don't want to go through all of them because it'll take us
Yeah,
too
I mean
long.
the
But
running backs. I mean, there's a few that sore thumbs that stick out, like Ezekiel at that high, but at least like that one approximates a list. The quarterback one is just
no,
insane.
but it's also insane because Derrick Henry is number 5.
Yeah,
And Henry is elite.
but you can
If
see him after Najee Harris and those
Okay,
other
but you couldn't
guys.
see him behind Zeke
No,
in any
absolutely
kind
not.
of
Yeah,
reasonable like
no, no, no.
call. Henry's a freak of nature. He's capable of carrying an offense. He should get a heavy workload in 2022 since the Titans sent AJ Brown to Philly as a signal of their waning faith in Ryan Tannehill since he went woke and his level of play has fallen off of a cliff. Oh man, I just
Okay, sorry, got to do with the receivers real
okay,
quick.
yeah, we do have to do the receivers.
Okay, Cooper
Cooper
Cup.
Cup, I mean, that's a no-brainer, and he's white, so obviously this guy's going to go for a player like that who's elite.
Yeah,
There's no doubt. I agree. Cooper
sure.
Cup. Number 2,
Doesn't make
Hunter
sense.
Renfro. And look, I'm not going to dog on Hunter because like I knew him in high school. Very nice fella. Um,
You knew
but
Hunter Renfro in high school,
yeah, he's from where I went to high school in South Carolina.
huh?
Um, and cool dude. He didn't get drafted.
Right.
Not sorry, drafted. He didn't get recruited in college. Was a walk on at Clemson. Like
Mm.
tremendous athlete, a lot of grit. Um, and I don't even mean this. I think Hunter would probably agree with me. Like that's ridiculous. Number 2. Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like Hunter is like a great sleeper pick. You get him late, and like
Yeah, he's
he
a
goes off
sleeper.
every once in a while. Nowhere in the conversation of top 5 wide receivers in the NFL. Fuck that. Um,
Ah, I love that Thielen is the. Does he even
Thielen,
mention?
he's been overlooked his entire career to his strong Christian background, which is the most out of touch thing I've ever heard in my life. The National Football League, right, is overlooking players because they're faithful.
Yeah.
Um,
What?
Actually, like, also, what did he say about Russell Wilson? If you don't mind me going back up for a second,
Yeah, yeah.
why is Russell Wilson? Okay, I guess because he's woke, but Russell Wilson is like a big time
It's the
Christian.
wokeness. But if
He's
you say
woke.
Black Lives Matter is like fine, then
You
you're
lose the
woke.
ability to throw the football.
And every as a wise man once said, everything woke turns to shit.
Oh man,
Okay,
I
there's
mean,
Justin Jefferson. What does he say? The greatest moment in Justin Jefferson's career is when he shook hands with President Trump after winning the national title at LSU. Well, I didn't bond with the 45th president to the extent that Jamar Chase did. I don't know, but that's interesting. It was still a notable connection that sent shockwaves through the sports world.
I mean, this is like pudding brain kind of stuff,
Yeah, it
right?
really is stupid.
No, I mean, like Justin Jefferson, an amazing player. That LSU season was unbelievable, but no, he shook hands with Trump. Um, Players to avoid: DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, Chase Claypool, Michael Thomas. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, Thomas is not in a good situation right now. Of course, Kelsey,
Man, he put too much effort into this. He went into the tight
Tim
ends
Tebow, Tim
again.
Tebow, number 2 tight end. I mean, just like the most. Oh my god! So again, I'll just say, oh, actually, if you don't mind, if we go
Oh,
to
he
the,
still
I
has.
haven't read these yet. Sorry,
He
what?
still. Sorry, look at the defense. Number one, the Washington, and he still has the
And he's still using
Redskins.
the slur, of course, because they're run by alpha male Jack Del Rio. Is a fearless patriot and a fearless play caller. I bet you the Washington Commanders win 5 games this year, right now.
Right.
5 games total in the season. Like I'm not stoked. I would not be betting high on the Commanders.
That's
Um,
funny.
the Jacksonville Jaguars, even more ridiculous. A team that has just been a perennial stinker. Number 2. So again, like, yeah, please take this advice, y'all.
Yeah.
Though, Matt might have some words here, but the Bills, um,
I do have the Bills defense. Yeah.
if Trump was allowed to have bought the franchise, that literally the only reason. I mean, this is
He, I mean, he's got to fill up the space, but why though? I guess. What's this website?
his website. It's nickadamusa.com.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
um,
I mean,
Pitts-
fair play to him. He did make the content that people like us wanted to
Pittsburgh
read. I guess.
Steelers though is incredible. I mean, obviously they're talking about the defense here, but Tomlin is a good fella. Um, I would say like relatively progressive. The Steelers like is probably one of the most in a league that does not have a lot of competition, like as an organization, like the Steelers are probably one of the better ones. There's literally a rule named after the Steelers for hiring coaches of color, that is supposed to be replicated by other teams. I'm surprised that got overlooked, but you get into a little bit of trouble. um Defenses to avoid: Dallas Cowboys. Did the Cowboys go woke? I must have missed that.
Oh yeah, here it is. That is. It was right. Scroll up 1 second. I
Oh,
don't know if we
sorry.
need to go to the kickers, but Trayvon Diggs is the worst cornerbacks in the NFL today, and the Cowboys defense will be torched in the passing games.
Fucking stupid ass motherfucker. I'll just leave it at that. That is like let's come back in week 6 or something like that. Let's look at these predictions. I don't know. So again, I do hope that the right wingers out there do follow this advice. But when it
Please
comes to
draft Tim
people,
Tebow.
Tim Tebow winning it all, baby.